All right. This is about redistricting in California and how it impacts nonprofits. And the impact on nonprofits in California is going to be something that happens once redistricting occurs. So let me run through a few things so that we can have this as something to refer to as we go through this redistricting process in California. One, understand redistricting is a political process, and it's about how the boundaries for voting districts are redrawn to reflect population changes based upon the census, and that then affects two major things. One, who gets elected, right? And two, how communities are represented in those elections and by those elected representatives. It's really part of the process to make sure that there's a level playing field. But what happens is sometimes there's quote unquote winners, sometimes there's losers because of how the redistricting takes place. Take this into consideration if you're a nonprofit trying to deal with redistricting, and understand that it's a political process, and that's where we're going to move forward on this video to get a better understanding of how to move within that so that we don't get into any trouble. First off, that's what we need to understand. Since it's a political process, we shouldn't get involved in the process of redistricting unless it's a particular part of our nonprofit mission, our nonprofit structure, right? We shouldn't be involved in it because political action and political engagement can cause issues for our nonprofit status if we're doing something to impact or influence voters on an election and a process that's taking place within the system. That's what we need to be careful of as nonprofit leaders. Stay out of that process and away from the politics of it, and make sure we're in alignment with our own mission and our own structure as a nonprofit. Next, we have to make sure that as a nonprofit, we're doing some things that help us get prepared for redistricting. For instance, you need to brace yourself and your nonprofit for the outcomes of redistricting. Whether you're a faith-based nonprofit or a community-based, even grassroots nonprofit, when we change who represents the community, you may have someone who no longer favors, quote unquote, your conservative views. You may have someone who no longer is, going to be able to say, hey, I want to make sure that I'm involved with your pancake breakfast every year on an annual basis. Sign me up. They may have no relationship with you, no relationship with your organization, no relationship with your clients or your quote unquote community. What they're going to do as a politician, they're going to try to stay in office. And if they're incumbent, they're going to try to balance the numbers between who they already have as a high percentage of voters in their pocket versus what new voters they need to tend to. So brace yourself for doing some things a little differently, getting ready to work with and developing new relationships with these representatives, and be able to set up and understand internally what changing the game means. What does changing the game mean for you as a nonprofit? What does changing the game mean for you as a nonprofit leader? When the redistricting happens, it's going to change the game. So be prepared, be ready, brace yourself. It's coming. Finally, put a plan in place for dealing with the potential changes. Put a plan in place for dealing with the potential changes. You want to work out relationships, you want to develop relationships, you want to get those things going with the new representatives as soon as possible. Welcome them to the community, thank them for sticking with it and coming through the process. And now let's work together hand in hand to make for a better community. You want to introduce yourself and your organization, even your board of directors, to the entire community and what it looks like in its new landscape once the lines have been redrawn. And I would go as far as, hey, host an open house or conduct a walking campaign to get to know your new community neighbors. Remember, redistricting is a process, but it doesn't have to be an end all. And it doesn't have to set you up to where you only see what's happening to funding and things of that nature. Remember, the dollars and cents of it all is going to come not from the government grants, but how you can remain resilient and consistent following what happens with redistricting. I think California nonprofits can deal with this and deal with this in a manner to where they can get a lot done, and they can get a lot done still serving more and more constituents if they will brace themselves for the impact and set up a plan and put that plan in place to deal with the change.